So the key message really from the report is that the switch to electric vehicles is going to happen. It's more a question of when rather than if. So if you look at the sustained fall in battery prices we've seen over the last decade, it's not going to be too long before EVs become cheaper than conventional vehicles. And when we start to think about the broader implications of that to the transport sector, the natural resources sector, the electricity generation sector, then we see it as perhaps one of the most substantial transitions, industrial transitions, that we're going to see over the next 20 to 30 years. The report then looks at and focuses on in more detail the kind of chemistries that we think are going to sustain the improvement in battery performance over the next decade, and then how finally we think investors are going to be able to play and benefit from those trends in the near term. We see the fall in battery prices as probably the key market driver over the next few years. So if you look back over most of the last decade, the average annual price decline in batteries has been something in the order of 18%. What we say in the report is looking at it conservatively, even assuming that battery, the rate of decline falls to about 10%. We see price parity in most market segments in most countries by about 2024. And the significance of that is that at this point, electric vehicles become more profitable for car manufacturers to produce, and that consumers no longer have to choose between an environmentally responsible purchase and a cheap purchase. By 2030, we see electric vehicles, including hybrids, reaching 38% of new car sales, and we'd see no reason why they couldn't go substantially beyond that level of penetration as you look out beyond that period. So transport accounts for roughly 9 gigatons of greenhouse gas emissions annually. That's about 25% of the global total. Within the 2030 timeframe of the report, EV fleet adoption is relatively modest. So we're looking at a possible displacement of roughly half a gigaton. Within the power sector, we see batteries contributing to the increased penetration of intermittent renewables, but it's not possible to really quantify the direct greenhouse gas reductions from that trend. It's important to say that the overall report is based on no explicit policies to accelerate the transition to a low carbon economy. In a scenario where such policies are introduced on a global coordinated basis, there could be a substantial acceleration to the adoption rates that we're looking at within the report.
The two primary factors holding back adoption of electric vehicles are range anxiety and cost. And vehicles can drive further between charges if you put more batteries on board, but then for each battery you put on, the weight becomes greater. So adding more batteries is subject to the law of diminishing returns. So anything you can do to reduce the weight of batteries while delivering the same amount of energy is a good thing. And for that reason, lithium-ion technology has been adopted, because for the same weight of battery, you can get around double the amount of electric charge. But even so, anything that you can do to improve the amount of electricity you can store in a lithium-ion battery is going to be a good thing. And for that reason, there's a lot of research going on into improving the materials that are used in the electrodes of a battery so that they can hold more charge, in improving the materials used in the separator of a battery, which is the thing that stops the electrodes from shorting together and causing a fire, and improving the electrolyte in a battery. And batteries which use a solid state material for an electrolyte, that's solid state batteries, they are really getting a lot of attention at the moment, because not only do you get a heck of a lot of electricity stored in a small volume, but they can charge more quickly, they'll hold the charge for longer, and they can be created in very innovative formats so that you could get a battery that's a wire shape or a battery that's a ribbon shape, for example. Companies right across the supply chain should benefit. So that's going from companies who are mining the materials, such as Talga Resources, companies that are manufacturing battery materials such as Ibutech or Nabaltec, companies that are making batteries. So Ilika are developing solid-state batteries. Paragon are offering battery packs for vehicles, going right the way up to companies that are involved in complete vehicles as well. So that's Ascol, EVA and Energica who are making electric motorcycles. Data from the University of Duisburg-Essen shows that improving battery chemistry rather than greater production efficiency offers the biggest potential for improving battery economics. So this suggests to us that the biggest opportunities lie with the companies that are making the battery materials. So either developing new ones, or companies that are manufacturing the materials for third parties. And in that case, if you're manufacturing the materials for a third party, you can actually be fairly agnostic as to which technology is going to dominate, because you could be supplying materials to a variety of technologies. On the challenges front, there is a big challenge for smaller battery manufacturers, because for them, they struggle to compete because of achieving economies of scale. And we note that Leclanche has responded to that challenge by moving up the supply chain and becoming a much more vertically integrated company. So rather than just offering batteries, which it was doing before, albeit very complicated and proprietary technology batteries, they can now offer complete power systems. So these would be power systems with their own software management, with all the electronics for controlling the batteries. And these can be deployed in electric ferries, in electric cars, buses, scooters, and even in charging points.